We're looking at Psalm 123 this day, and also Psalm 125, two of the ascent songs that we find in this package of 120 to 134. These psalms that apparently were sung in the caravans headed up from their hometowns as the people of Israel traveled to Jerusalem for the big three festivals every year. And these songs were sung perhaps as a joyful thing. It's always great to sing with a group of people and to come together and just start singing. And so they had a long trip sometimes, and songs were beneficial. But also, as we read each of them, we see layers of need in the people that are traveling, and they're often talking about the need for protection and being guarded. And in Psalm 123, graciousness. They need God's grace, and so they turn to the Lord for that. We all desperately need God's grace. Until we recognize how desperately we need it, we're probably never going to reach out for it. And that's hard for some of us who are self-sufficient. We think we need no one or nothing. We can take care of ourselves, thank you. And so we're hesitant even to reach out for the grace of God until we need it. And then when we come to the end of ourselves and know that we need God to step up for us, then we cry out for His grace. And so maybe that's where some of the psalmists are here as well. We see, for example, in verse 3, "Be gracious to us, O Lord, be gracious to us, for we are greatly filled with contempt." So when are some of the times that we need God's grace the most? Well, he mentions one here, and that is personal attack. When we're under the attack of other people, they're trying to harm us in some way, maybe physically, maybe just through words, maybe through shunning us or marginalizing us from their group of friends, or doing harm for us at work. And there's nothing much we can do about it. We can get in those corners sometimes where there's nothing much we can do. But we can cry out for God's grace, and we can ask Him to be there for us even when we are filled with contempt, when others are looking down on us, berating us and harming us. God's grace is sufficient. And then also he talks about being under a time of ridicule. Verse 4, "Our soul is greatly filled with the scoffing of those who are at ease, with the contempt of the proud." Scoffing, even though the old saying goes that sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never harm me, most of us know that's not really true. In some ways, the words of other people that make fun of us, scoff at us, ridicule us, is more painful than broken bones. And I think most people could attest to that. And so we have a need and time of ridicule. When others are making fun of us and looking down on us, that we need to know that God is on our side, that God's grace is there for us at that time. Then let's turn over to Psalm 125 as well. In Psalm 125, we see a little bit different idea. Here, the psalmist is talking about protection. So we need to turn to God's grace when people are making fun of us, when people are harming us in some ways. But here he talks about just plain protection. There are times perhaps when there's no other place to turn to but to God for protection. He says in verse 1, "Those who trust in the Lord are as Mount Zion, which cannot be moved but abides forever. As the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds His people from this time forth and forever." Around Jerusalem is a range of mountains, and those mountains can serve as protection from the enemies that Jerusalem might have faced over the time. And so the psalmists are headed to Jerusalem. They're coming from villages and towns and cities throughout the whole area, and they're coming up to Jerusalem. And as they approach Jerusalem, they recognize the mountains that surround Jerusalem. And so this song really fits the geography of where they're going, but it fits even more than that. It fits the need for protection. As the mountains served as a protection against the enemies of Jerusalem, so the Lord serves as our protector as well. And so our people that are journeying, our travelers here, as they're going up to one of the feasts, one of these big three feasts, they are comforted by the fact that God's great strength is like the mountains that surround Jerusalem. You and I sometimes get in those pickles as well. And we know that we can only turn to Him. And when we do, His strength is sufficient. He is like the mountains that surround Jerusalem. That should give us a wonderful day in the Lord.